Hello and welcome back to the Talking Wolves podcast. I'm your host, Matt Cooper, and today I'm alongside Mr. Jordan Russell. Jord, how you keeping, mate? Jamaican bobsleigh team jersey on as well. What a Monday.
Yeah, I know, yeah. I've gone in for like, am I in a John Candy? You know, I thought, well, it's nice. But it's actually my birthday today. It was a birthday present, so there you go.
Get that quite. Happy birthday, Jord. I knew it was around here, but yeah. You should have said, you should have said, you should have what people do on Twitter when they're craving attention and they screenshot the balloons on the profile saying, there's a glitch.
It must be a glitch. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, I'm 33 as well, so it's nothing to shout about, is it? To be honest with you, as soon as you get over 30, it's basically one step closer to death.
Who's older are you two? You are, aren't you, Jordan? Oh, how old are you now, Joe?
How long did that take? 56 seconds. Yeah, no, 34, mate. Yeah.
You're 34?
There you go.
Yeah, this Joe from Concept Scouting's here as well, by the way. If he's debut on the Talking Wolves podcast. We've done the transfer podcast before, haven't we? And Dave is currently in Amsterdam doing things that we aren't allowed to say. We've just gone to watch a dart, so it's just us three today. But Jord, happy birthday, mate! I didn't realise it was today. What a better way to spend your day than discussing a 2-1 defeat at Newcastle at home.
Oh no, tell me about it. I mean, yeah, it's just depressing, isn't it? Like, it's just so depressing at the minute. But we'll dissect it, I'm sure, a little bit later on. But and I'm sure some of the questions will be lovely as well. But it's pretty dire at the minute, let's be honest.
What have you been up to this week, Jord? I feel like you've been quite busy.
Yeah, well, I went out Saturday. We went to the pie factory. I've not been for a while. I'm not sure if I'm not sure if any listeners haven't been. I recommend you do go because it's just class.
I think it's gone downhill a bit. I've not been for a couple of years, but I think it went downhill a bit.
No, I hadn't been for about 12, got to be a year or so, maybe 18 months, and we popped in. So I did the dreaded trip to IKEA on Saturday morning, and as we were coming back through to Stourbridge, Emma was like, "Oh, we'll go in there," and it was good. It was really good. And then yesterday went to Gaucho for lunch.
Oh, nice.
As a bit of a birthday treat, and then literally got the train back from Snow Hill, walked in my door at 4:29. So literally 1 minute to go before kickoff, I was like, "This is perfect." And then, they had to go and ruin it all, didn't they?
Yeah, I've not been to the pie factory in ages, but you should have popped in when you went to Wednesbury, mate. I'm only around the corner, Junction 9. Did you not treat yourself to a hot dog or an ice cream from IKEA? You've got to, ain't you?
No, we just didn't. I was just, honestly, I hate that place with a passion. It just needs bulldozing. So the sooner I can get in and out of IKEA. I was going to say Wednesbury then, but IKEA. But no, they were selling. I saw it like as we were walking around. They were advertising vegan hot dogs on offer for 50p, and I was like, well, "That's because no fucker buys them. That's why they're 50p."
This is where
so no, just get me out of there.
Joe's actually vegan.
I'm not.
Oh, right. No. Sorry, Joe. I was going to say sorry for you. I wasn't going to apologise for saying it.
Don't get me wrong. I probably should be, but I'm not. I'm going to just let it roll now. There's no need to be a vegan. I don't want to offend another large group of people, but vegans are certainly welcome. But
after calling the Netherlands Holland, which George did on the match review as well, for any of our Dutch listeners, we do apologise. I know that some of you do find that quite offensive. Joe, are you a fan of an IKEA hot dog?
It's one of them. You got to put it into context of being at IKEA. It's the best thing that's there. It's probably the only good thing that's there. So George's got to take the kind of positives with the negatives.
I think the meatballs.
The risk of offending the entire Swedish nation.
Yeah,
it's not a great place.
We're talking Xenophobe podcast. I mean, the meatballs. It's more balls than meat, but I think they're superb with the gradassa, the creamy sauce they put over it. Nah, that's a bit of me. And you can't beat an ice cream from there either, can you?
International playboy.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. You've been up to anything, Joe? Anything of note?
No, mate. A lot of scouting now. Now the EFL season's kind of in full flow. There's a lot of requests coming in for video scouting, which is getting a little bit tedious, if I'm honest. But yeah, it's been busy. Work's busy. Scouting on the side's busy. You know, that shower yesterday's making me busy as well. So yeah, it's all good.
I'm going to put you on the spot now, Joe. From the players that you've seen so far this season in the leagues that you scout with him, has there been one in particular who is looking like the dogs? And can you say who it is?
Yeah, I probably can say it. There's a lad who's played up front for Bolton, Adebayo, who's been previously kind of on radars in the Championship. He fell off a little bit record-wise, but he'd probably be the pick. I think I've said it to you before. The standard down all the way to the bottom of the EFL and beyond is getting a lot better. And if anybody saw the Ibu Adams miss for Cardiff, on Saturday, that kind of contradicts what I'm saying. Missing from 3 yards after sprinting the entire length of the pitch, but it's going well, mate. There's a lot of talent down there that we should probably be trying to pick up. To be honest with you,
I thought you said when you started that, I was going to say there's a Norwegian lad at City who plays up front who's going to be the next best thing. But I saw a story actually about Adebayo. How do you say his name, Joe? I don't want to butcher it.
Victor Adebayo. Yeah,
he's out, isn't he? After a hefty sneeze, he's pulled it back.
Yeah, he's back now. He's back now.
How is it?
And again, that's the kind of thing you're dealing with in the EFL. But Bolton have got a lad, Dion Charles, who they kind of rotate between the two, which that level's unique. Nice. He's had a few bizarre injuries, and one of our local neighbours were in for him last summer. One of our hated local neighbours, I will say, but didn't have the cash to stump up to buy him. So ironically,
there's two of our local rivals that we'd probably hate more. It's not going to be Villa. Blues have got loads of cash, so that leaves one. I couldn't see him going to Walsall.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, it's not Walsall.
Rushall Olympic couldn't afford him. I've got a funny feeling that we might be playing the Albion next year in one capacity or the other.
My genuine concern is we won't be playing them because they'll be in a league above us. That's my concern.
Yeah. No, I don't think we're there just yet. But let's talk about the game yesterday. With Newcastle, I think they're a very well drilled team. They've got 3 or 4 players who I think are excellent: Isak, Gordon, Bruno, Botman on his day. But I do think, Jord, they are there to be got at. I saw the starting lineup yesterday, and it wasn't as full strength I was anticipating. And although we've only got a point so far, I thought at home we can really give these a good go. But the first 15, 20 minutes, it was like, can we have our ball back, please?
Yeah, it's too much respect, I thought, the first 20, 25 minutes of the game for Newcastle. I like them a lot. I've put them in the top 4. I think they might come 4th. And they're very solid. I think when we spoke about it on the last pod, Newcastle just very physically imposing. They've got runners everywhere. They've got legs. And that's the thing that you've got to compete with. I think to beat Newcastle, you've got to be able to compete with them on that physicality front. And that first 20, 25 minutes, we weren't competing with them, but we're just giving them too much easy ball for me. Like, it was far too easy. And they had a few chances, didn't they? Gordon hit the post, I think. And yeah, like I say, far too much respect to start off with. And you could get at them. I think, Lewis Hall and Dan Burn, I think we saw it all through the game, really, the pattern of play. We could hurt them down their left side, our right-hand side. And I don't know why we didn't do that from the start, really. Yeah, too much respect to start off with. And yeah, it's frustrating now looking at the result that we gave them 20, 25 minutes at the start of the game, where actually when we started getting on the front foot and putting them under a bit of pressure, couldn't really cope with us for that middle part of the game, if you ask me.
I think they felt a bit suffocated. The midfield 3 definitely helped. Lamina playing a bit more advanced, and to be honest, Joe, I thought he played that role well. I know O'Neill said in the post-match press conference that they made a change after 15, 20 minutes tactically. You were watching it on telly. It's hard when you sat behind the goal, like 6 rows up. It's hard to see like who's playing where and what changed. Is there anything that you spotted, Joe, that made that? Because after they made that supposed change, we looked a lot better.
From what I could see, obviously not from my usual seat in the South Bank, as you say, which tactically it's a shocker to actually see what's going on. Yeah. But watching it on the screen, it looked to me as if somehow they got a lot more support after the first 25 minutes, predominantly from Lamina moving over there. Gomez moved over there at times as well, so it was fairly kind of transient in what they were doing. And obviously, the one thing I like about Jørgen Strand Larsen is he will drop back where he needs to, and he'll put himself where he needs to be. I think I made a comment on Twitter after about 15 minutes. He was just getting absolutely murdered. Semedo was. So by law of averages, Gordon's going to beat you. At some stage, if he's going to take you on 5 times, he's going to beat you once or twice. I think that's going to happen 24 back in the league. You saw it happen in the Man United game on Saturday. Diogo Dalot got beat by the young lad from Southampton 3 or 4 times. It does happen, but that's predominantly from a lack of support rather than, Semedo and Mosquera made a hash in that first 15, 20 minutes trying to deal with him. I saw a comment from the Express and Star this morning about Semedo having a poor game and Lewis Hall running him ragged, which I thought Lewis Hall was quite clearly the worst player on the pitch yesterday.
Well, I've seen Newcastle fans say he was man of the match.
No.
I didn't think so, personally.
No, not for me. I thought from their perspective, I thought Gordon had a great game. He always does. I think it didn't really help them with Isak going off and moving Gordon into the middle because I think they probably would have had more opportunity there. But going back to your original question, I think Lemina pushing right and kind of tucking in helped. And it just so happened that was also when he managed to get himself forward, him linking well with Semedo going forward. I thought that looked really, really good in the second half of the first half.
I think Semedo is one-on-one one of the best fullbacks I've seen in the league. But like you said, Joe, there is going to be a point where he doesn't win every single duel and he does get skinned. I know he got skinned with Matoma. His other weakness is that back post, defending the back post. But Judd, I think 1v1 I think he's excellent. But Gordon is an absolute menace. When they signed him, I thought it's a lot of money, but he's come on leaps and bounds. He's a terrific player, and like Joe said, he'll give any fullback a nightmare, especially when Hall is on the overlap, giving him something else to think about. He was stretched far too much.
Yeah, he was, yeah. And I think, I agree with you. Semedo, one-on-one defensively, is one of the best I've seen, to be honest with you. And it annoyed me. Joe probably would have picked up on this and anyone watching it at Sky as well. Watching the game on Sky was Jamie Carragher said, Semedo's known for his attacking prowess, but not very good defensively. I'm like, mate, you've got that completely the opposite way around, if you're asking me. Yeah. And it definitely helped when Lemina and even Cunha at times dropped in at right, didn't he? And sort of once we got to the bottom of that, to sort of try and block the overlap from Hall as well. But Gordon, for me, he's a great player. Again, when he moved from Everton, same as you, Matt, I thought he moved for a big fee. But yeah, he's one of the most improved players last year for me in the Premier League. He should have been playing a lot more for England in the summer as well. So I just think he's so direct and he's a brilliant footballer. And like you say, when you're going one-on-one, as long as you come out sort of on a net positive on those duels that you're winning them, you've got to take that. You've got to take that as a win. Like Gordon's always gonna get past you at some point. And I actually think that without the Isak injury, Gordon didn't play more centrally, and then Harvey Barnes didn't come in on that side probably because it might have been more of a like for like, or Gordon would have gone out right, for example. So it's just sod's law really. But yeah, look, I don't know what it is with the Express and Star at times with some of the ratings with Semedo. I'm not saying there's an agenda. I've seen on Twitter saying there's an agenda. I don't think there's an agenda. I just think that they obviously see the game completely differently to the majority of Wolves fans. And I think, he had a rope of 15, 20 minutes, but after that 15, 20 minutes, he was fine. And the drop-off when Doherty come on for him, it's alarming. So alarming.
It is. So I think Semedo is underappreciated from fans when he's in possession as well. Joe, he might not go and skin a fullback, but a lot of the time he gets the ball under pressure out wide, isolated, and he still manages to hold on to the ball. He shields the ball really well. And I think fans don't, or some fans, and it's only a small section, don't appreciate the work he does. And Gary O'Neill makes it very, very clear how important Semedo is in build-up, out of possession. So he was always going to get skinned. I also think that Anthony Gordon, and I might be the only one thinking this, looks quite like Princess Diana. I don't know how.
I think you're right. I think you are the only person who's thinking that. I think he's got a bit of a. I think he's got a look of the Audreys off Coronation Street, circa 2004.
Claire Baldwin as well.
Claire Baldwin, yeah, he's very good. He's very good though, man. He's one of
them, isn't he? I feel like he's gone under the radar to a degree. I think he should have been further up the pecking order for England than he was. But coming back to Semedo, I think part of his problem has been no matter what you do in that role, if you've got no end product up top, your numbers are naturally going to drop off. And I think historically, I think we'll see an improvement in that this season because we've got a proper number 9, we've got someone playing off him. But I think historically, people say, oh, he's had 1 assist this season, or he scored 1 goal in the last X amount of years. Okay, that's absolutely fine. But if you look back to when Doherty was playing right wing back, note he was playing right wing back, and you look at the players he had in front of him, naturally his numbers were going to be better. I'm really disappointed with how the reception to kind of Semedo has been around. Like where I sit in the South Bank, the reaction to him was really positive. When you start looking online, people generally just have this warped idea where he's a right back, he's a right wing back. Naturally, he should be getting 10 assists a season, scoring 5 goals. That's just not how it works.
I think the positives that I'm taking away from this is that when we're discussing players from Sunday, it doesn't feel like we're saying he had a bad game or he weren't very good. Like I thought that Wolves on the whole played well. I thought Strand Larsen, one of his best games in a Wolves shirt. He really put himself about, gave Dan Burn loads of problems. And it might not always come off for him, Jord, but he's a presence and he can test. I just wish that players would gamble around him more because he probably wins 75-80% of his flick-ons. And you've got, like, I saw Bellegarde a few times, like, hesitating whether to, like, run him behind off the flicks. For me, you've got to gamble because he's such an outlet. But also, Johnston's kicking as well. I know there was a couple of times where he got caught out, but his long game was considerably better than Sarr. He found Strand Larsen a few times with a long ball. But, George, Strand Larsen, what were your thoughts?
I think he had a thankless task for the first 30 minutes, which kept seeming to, don't say just hoof the ball up to him, but we were getting the ball up in and around him, but there was no one really around him, like you say, for the second balls. And Dan Burn and Fabian Shaw are big, imposing centre halves, and I think they had their, well, I think they won the battle in that first 30 minutes for sure. Like you say, Johnson's distribution, when he could get it to feet, and certainly that first 15, 20 minutes of the second half, just direct ball straight to Strand Larsen's feet and stuff, and he started playing. He can build from there. That's why he's playing, and that's why Jose Sarr's not in the team anymore. Because you can say what you want about some of the blocked passes or whatever from Johnson, but Sarr would never give you that, and you'd never be able to build out from the back like that with Sarr. Just a limitation of his game. I think he's a good player, Strand Larsen. I do think though he's going to have to start scoring goals, because not necessarily saying for myself. Because I can appreciate the all-round game he's doing, but you know what it's like down Molineux. If he goes a couple more home games out, and I know he scored against Chelsea, albeit in a heavy defeat, but they'll want to be in the back of the net more often than not. And if he doesn't, I think it'll just start creeping, especially if we're not winning games as well. It'll all like the boo boys and all the criticism will go his way, because it's like, well, we're not winning enough games, but our striker ain't scoring goals.
I think you've got to be a bit dense to think that though, because he's involved in pretty much every goal that we score. He got the assist yesterday.
Oh.
You can see that he's instrumental in that build-up play. So that chance he had yesterday, I couldn't see it very well, but it looked to me like a chance he should have scored. I think the header. It was that Strand Larsen, wasn't it? In the second half. I can't see fans turning on him just yet. And I think one of the other things he has in his favour is he's an absolute workhorse. Sometimes too much. You can see how frustrated he gets when things go his way. But yeah, I can't see fans turning on him. I was really impressed though, Joe, with Andre. Does reminding me a little bit of Moutinho, where everything he does is just right, nothing too outlandish. But if that passes on, he knows he can make it.
Yeah, he's like the ultimate simple footballer to me with the ball.
Yeah.
Like I saw the stat yesterday, he made 40 successful passes out of 40, which on the face of it, it's a bit of a bollocks stat when you read it. But you see it like that because
anyone a few long balls in that, a few diags that needed a bit of
exactly. There was some really good kind of even just really what appears to be really simple. Turn on the ball, spray it out. He was so efficient with that, which is something that. For Lamina and Gomez bring a lot to the team, I think, without the ball, with the ball. But that kind of dynamic movement up the pitch where someone can just turn on it and not necessarily just, run 40 yards up the pitch, but just spray a simple pass out and get you up the pitch. I think that's where if you look the yesterday, particularly when he went off, it's a different game. Really, he's going to be so important to us. Now, the fear for me will be, if he's going on international breaks, he's playing twice for Brazil. That's great for him, but we really need those minutes out of him moving forward. And as that season runs on, the one issue that a lot of players coming over from South America have is getting up to the speed of the game. He's going to need to do that quickly because we need him for 90 minutes every week. That's going to be the problem. Yeah,
there was a couple of times where he turned out under pressure really well. Strong, stocky lad, isn't he? Hard to dispossess off the ball. Similar to
in a solid, playing against a solid midfield three. I know the midfield three from Newcastle probably wasn't the three that they'd have wanted, but with Longstaff, Bruno, and Joe Linton, you've got legs in there. Players who are decent on the ball as well, particularly Bruno and Joe Linton. But out of the 6 midfielders that were on show yesterday, Andre was kind of head and shoulders above all of them.
Yeah, he was. I was really impressed with him. He looks comfortable in taking the ball off the centre half of the goalkeeper as well, which Lamina and João Gomez for me just aren't that player. It depends how much you value that in your build up. But yeah, I was incredibly impressed with him. I didn't think he'd come straight into the lineup, but O'Neill's probably seen enough from him in the 2 or 3 days that he's had with him to think actually this player is someone who can slot straight in. It'd be interesting to see what they do moving forward, whether they stick with that 3. Or I know it's a bit of a hybrid with Bellegarde coming in a little bit more centrally and Lamina going out on the out wide, but there's some real legs in there, and I think you're going to cause a few problems. Some teams cause a few teams some problems just by running them over. But let's talk about the second half. Jord, Howe made 3 changes. He cited that he wanted a bit more energy. Tonali, Barnes, and who else came on? Tonali, Barnes, and Joe Willock.
Joe Willock.
And I didn't feel like Newcastle were... Look, they come back into a little bit, but that Fabian Schär goal, it's a wicked deflection. He's good from range. He scored a few from range before, but you probably accept that someone taking a pop shot from there, it's going to have to be an absolute worldie or a wicked deflection to go in. So... that's unlucky. But I felt after that, Jord, I just sat there and said to my dad, you know what's happening now? It was just an absolute collapse again. Game management, it feels really I feel like whether the players are fit, but they seem to lose a bit of discipline when it gets to like 60, 70 minutes. The changes didn't help, but we'll come on to that. But yeah, Jord, your thoughts on that second half collapse?
Yeah. Well, I thought, I know that Newcastle made those changes and they wanted to get a bit more energy on the pitch, but that first, until Schär scored, we were the better team, and it was really was comfortable. I thought. I think I would say it's a wicked deflection. I don't know if you've watched the game back, Matt, yet, or seen the goals on TV, but it was going straight down Johnson's throat until it got the deflection off Dawson's head, looped in the top corner.
It looks a good strike. I was right behind it. He struck it cleanly, but I thought it was just like just a nick. But if you're saying it's a wicked deflection,
well, it was a nick, but it's a wicked deflection in a way. It's one of those that just pops the ball up, so it's just gone over Johnson. That's where it's wicked. It hasn't really changed the direction all that much. But I think Johnson would have got it without Dawson getting a flick on it. And yeah, I said the same. As soon as it went 1-1, you just sitting there, just knowing, what's coming. You just knew what was coming. And I know you said we'll talk about substitutions in a bit. I think the point I want to raise on that is that we're that comfortable in the game at the point where I almost feel like there's an obsession to make changes when you hit certain minutes in the games where it's like, we need to freshen it up now. 65, we just need to freshen it up. We need to do something. And actually, we were that comfortable. And I thought we were that sort of dominant at that point in the game. I think Gary O'Neill got it massively wrong yesterday. I just don't think you need to make the change with Bellegarde first of all for Hwang, and then if you are going to make that change, like put an actual out and out winger in there for me. Like it just didn't help things. Hwang was non-existent when he came on, and I think I did. I'll stick up for O'Neill a lot. It's on him yesterday, in my opinion. Like I think he lost it. We didn't lose it on the. I think he lost us the game with his changes. I think he got it completely wrong.
Hwang is for me digressed. I think unless you're playing him within the width of the 18-yard box, he's pretty ineffective. But Joe, I understand what George's saying there, and I agree to a certain extent. But I was watching Semedo for 10 minutes before he come off, and he could barely hobble. I don't know whether he's not up to match fitness. Bellegarde, I thought, was doing okay. But in O'Neill's defence, Joe, what does he do if Semedo's going to come off? Who else would you bring on? And there's an argument, Lima, but Doc in the last 2 or 3 games he's played a big part in has done on the whole pretty well. So you're kind of damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
I think the error lies in naming the squad, and I know a lot of people are blaming Doherty rightly, and I am as well. But he had a good game against Arsenal at the Emirates. He's probably the best of our defenders on the pitch. It's not a case of scapegoating Doc because he's done well when he's played this season. So I do understand to a degree why he's made the sub. I had a bit of a rant after the game yesterday, but maybe in reflection, I kind of understand the sub. If Semedo's knackered, but in that case, don't necessarily take Bellegarde off first. Or the issue I had with the subs was, obviously bringing Doc on. If he doesn't make that mistake, then it probably goes down as a fair enough. But the sub in taking Andre off, I'll come to that in a sec. Actually, the Hwang sub on with Jord, for me, Hwang comes on the pitch and replaces Strand Larsen with 10 minutes to go. Where Guedes comes on, because I thought Guedes did all right when he came on, but Hwang, I posted something on X this morning in terms of the stats. Wide, he's absolutely useless. There's no getting away from the fact he should be in the squad as our second choice number 9. He plays a little bit differently to Strand Larsen, but in the width of the penalty box, he's the most dangerous player we have. Completely get that. So why on earth bang him out on the left wing, where we weren't really playing too much anyway? Semedo was bombing up and down the right, and we were really, really kind of looking good on the right hand side. I thought Aït-Nouri was quiet yesterday, which then reflected in the fact that we weren't really doing much out there. So we've stuck Hwang out there, who's a fairly ineffective player. In between the big moments, he doesn't do much anyway, which isn't a dig. That's his game. There's certain players in our squad who are front foot players. There are certain players in our squad who are back foot players. The likes of Hwang, the likes of Sarabia. You could argue probably the likes of Bellegarde maybe, where they're moments players. They're not going to run around like crazy for 90 minutes. When we concede that first goal, the momentum swing, and I've ranted about this to death, the last day or so. Why, when you've got players on the bench, the likes of Rodrigo Gomez, the likes of Carlos Forbes, why don't you get them on the pitch? If you're struggling for legs and you want Doherty on the pitch, then get someone on with him on that flank who's got legs as well, so he can support him. Carlos Forbes isn't a great defensive winger, I get that, but a body in front of him who can support him, who's got legs, who's fresh, absolutely fine. But the Hwang sub made no sense to me. I called it at the time, in fairness. The Doyle sub as well. For me, if Andre's going off, if he's knackered, it is what it is, then you have to revert to dropping Lamina and Gomez back in there together and just have a flat 2. If you want a kind of stable base, drop them both in there and get someone on further up the pitch. But I found the subs really odd. I wouldn't go as far to say O'Neill's necessarily lost it on his own, but he's contributed to it quite heavily, I would say.
Yeah, it was just a massive collapse, wasn't it? And that goal, it completely knocked the stuffing out of Wolves. But they've got to show a bit more character. I feel like they're a bit weak at the minute. We've got a lot of players who love to fly into tackles and get in their face, but then when it comes down to holding on to a lead and being disciplined, look at Newcastle when they went 2-1 up. There was no gaps whatsoever, and Wolves couldn't play through them. It was go wide, we'll do the arc, we'll come back around. And that's the way it should be, and perhaps that's down to the way that they've been coached.
I think it comes back to discipline now, Matt, doesn't it? Like you say, where Gomez and Lamina are brilliant players for us, and that they will be for a while to come, hopefully. But when we're under the cosh, it's not that they tend to disappear, but they almost want to take control of the game in the wrong way, where sometimes you just need to have 5 minutes where you just get yourself together. And I think part of that is if you go through that squad, I'm not a fan of this whole you need 11 players with Premier League experience kind of Sean Dodge mentality. But if you across the back 4, really, in terms of kind of game management, you've only really got Dawson, who's going to be stable. Mosquera was brilliant yesterday, I thought, but he's not the kind of player that's going to calm the game down, is he?
No.
And neither's Doc, neither's Aït-Nouri. So that's probably an issue. And once you take Andre off, you've almost took the handbrake off, which is there for that reason. Sometimes, and maybe that was what the Doyle change was, but Doyle wants to get the ball forward. He wants to play the ball out. He doesn't want to sit and stay
across.
Minutes. So I think like you say, the game management and the discipline, which comes from O'Neill, just to say, 5 minutes, keep the ball, calm it down. At no point in that game yesterday, as good as we look going forward, we were never in control of it.
No,
I didn't feel.
But I think, especially against a good team like Newcastle, there's going to be points in the game, especially when you're holding on to a lead, where you are going to have to dig your toes into the canvas and just shut the shop for a bit and ride it out. And you're going to get opportunities in transition down the other end. But we just can't seem to do it. We just cannot. We just shit ourselves. I don't know what it is. I don't think that potentially the way that we're playing, that half the players look fit. I know it's early in the season, and some are coming back from international duties, but I just don't think they look up to sharpness to be able to play that way for 90 minutes. Whether you can or not is a different thing. It's easy for me to say 17 and a half stone sat at home recording the podcast in the box room.
Even more so, though, Matt. Even more so. If you know there's a fitness issue in the squad, which, O'Neill's banging on about now that, we have to get Semedo off, fine. But if you know that's the case, why try and play this kind of like gung-ho, swashbuckling way of getting forward where, you've brought Hwang on, you've brought Guedes on in the end, you've brought Forbes on, which, a good changes in a way. Forbes and Guedes I kind of get. But there's still no stability at the back. There's still massive gaps between the back four, the midfield, whatever that was towards the end, and the front line. And that's where sometimes you just have 5 minutes sat behind the ball. So then you can break out. At no point was, either Bellegarde or Forbes or Hwang or any of those wide players just sat in front of the back four, just supporting, which tells me that O'Neill's stuck, I think, halfway between wanting to be reserved and wanting to get up the pitch. So I'm not really sure going forward what the actual style of play is that we're looking to play with.
I was watching Arsenal against Spurs yesterday, and for me, Arsenal are the best team in the league with City, and Spurs are a good side. Don't get me wrong, but there was a period in the second half or the first half even, where Spurs were on top, and every man was back for Arsenal, even Havertz, and they were sitting in there. They were pushing them out wide where Spurs were ineffective, and then they were throwing crosses into the box, and Gabriel and Saliba, thank you very much, we'll swallow that up and then we break. Whereas I just don't, it just looks panic, Jord. It looks like absolute panic stations.
It is, of course, it is, and it's always been that way. I think there's two things that I certainly feel like it's not even just and Gary O'Neill's Wolves, like a lot of versions of this Wolves team. I just feel like we just lack that gamesmanship and that like sort of just take the sting out of the game. You don't have to, even at 1-1, it was all of a sudden it was like, right, let's just get the ball forward as quick as possible and try and get a winner. It just how it felt like to me. And so there's no strategy, no structure. And you know what? Sometimes you just got to just take your medicine, like you said, Joe. Just get behind the ball, do the basics well, compose, and go again. Like you're right with what you say with Arsenal, Matt. Like the best teams know when to, swallow the pride a little bit and just sit in and just be compact and be difficult to break down. And that's what you've got to be. You've got to be humble in that. And I think, look, it's the Premier League. Like, it doesn't matter if you're playing Arsenal, Man City, you're playing fucking Ipswich Town, Southampton. They will have a spell in the game, 10, 15 minutes, where they're going to be on top, whether you're playing them at home or away. Like, again, I know, Joe, you mentioned Dello getting ripped to shreds by, is it Tyler Dibby or whatever? I can't think his name was. In that first half. Like, Southampton were well on top in that game. And Man United weren't sitting in. And that's why there's question marks about Ten Hag. He was trying to just carry on, and if the penalty would have gone in, it'd have been a completely different result in that game. And I think that, we just needed to. When it went to 1-1, it was a very unfortunate goal in the way that the deflection went in, looped in over Johnson. But all of a sudden, all that hard work we'd done in the second half, where we were on top, we were in control, we were creating chances, it just went into like mini soccer, under eights football, get the ball forward as quickly as possible, and let's panic. And there was no need for it at that point. And then, I think one thing we haven't said is how good actually the Harvey Barnes goal was. But still, you just knew it was coming, and it was so avoidable, so avoidable.
The midfield are important with that, Jordan, I think, because all you have to do when that first goal goes in, and you can see, you could literally feel the momentum change. You could feel it, and you could see it in the Newcastle players' faces that they were, as soon as they got that first goal, they were right. Let's get back and get another. Whereas all you've got to do is just drop in front of the back four, keep it tight for 5 minutes, see it out, because then Newcastle are the kind of team, I think, that we could have quite easily beat them yesterday if we had a bit of nerves about that. I don't buy this kind of Gary O'Neill piece that I know, Matt, you said you think they're going to get top four possibly, which obviously can happen. But when you're 4 games into the season, Gary O'Neill's coming out saying they're going to finish above us.
I don't like that.
No, it's crap. Yeah, it's loser mentality. And the thing is, again, we spoke about Fosun. We know what's happened in the summer. We know about the lack of investment at times. And Gary O'Neill would have wanted more money. Matt Hobbs would have wanted more money. But you can't plead poverty when you've got fucking two of the 3 Brazilian starting centre midfielders. You know, you can plead poverty when you've got like fucking Rowan Ricketts and Egert Johnson playing for you. But we've got fucking Joe Gomez and Andre. Like, you can't.
The thing is, George, as well,
poor us.
If you look at that starting 11, how do we improve that? Really, I don't think we're in a position now. I know we're pissed about it in the window and we kind of left it late and we do what we always do and maybe didn't get the options that we wanted. But for me, I'm happy with the keeper. I found it odd when we were discussing, me and Matt were discussing 6 weeks ago that Johnson was coming in. But I think all round that'll be an improvement now. I can quite happily eat that one. That back four, I don't necessarily think we can go out and improve that immediately overnight. I thought Dawson and Mosquera were really good yesterday.
You could, but you're spending some serious dough, aren't you?
Yeah, but for a team that wants to finish between 8th and 12th in the league, which we would take this season all day long, then that starting 11 and probably 3 or 4 players, 5 maybe, that come off the bench, they're good enough to do that. That's a good enough squad. If you look at the likes of Forest, woe the day where our players not in Forest because they've been an absolute shit show. But this summer, last summer, how they've recruited and where they are now, and then how they're playing the game, they're probably like years in front of us now, which is embarrassing. But not on paper. If you look at the team on paper, we've got a good side. And I think the defeatism that Gary O'Neill's playing kind of in the press, and he's done it quite a bit over the summer where there's a lot of negativity.
I think that's him managing his own PR for his career, personally. That's what I think. He's managed expectations from the outset. He's making it very clear that he thinks that Wolves are going to be down below and he'll keep them up and he'll do a wonderful job. I don't like it. He may be thinking it. We may all be thinking it, but that's not what you outwardly say. It just makes you look a loser.
Yeah. But for me as well with that, it's like we as fans, we knew what the sort of the canvas was and sort of this Fosun rhetoric of, oh, well, we're not going to put money in our pocket as much as we did before. And if you want to win things, don't support Wolves and all this sort of crap. But Gary O'Neill in the summer and all his backroom staff signed an extension until 2028.
Yeah.
Right. If you've so you know what the state of play is, right? And you've opted to stay for another 3-4 years, whatever that'll be. You can't then start moaning about sort of the hand you've been dealt with because you've signed and committed to a longer term deal with that hand you've been dealt with. If you don't like it, as much as I wouldn't want him to go, well, mate, see you later. Fuck off. Like, go and wait for the England job or wait for another Premier League job. Because if you ain't up for it or ain't up to it, then it ain't good. And that comment he said in the press yesterday, if that starts coming in from the top, this defeatist mentality and pity us, poor us, it'll start seeping down to the players, and we'll be in a position what we were under Bruno Lage, where we'll be rock bottom or in the bottom 3. Come November, December. And then Fosun have really got to make a decision to make at that point because, again, I still don't think they would get rid of Gary O'Neill. I don't want them to get rid of Gary O'Neill. But his position, especially with the comments in the press, could become untenable very quickly if it carries on with this poor me stuff because it'll only wear so thin with Wolves fans. Like, he's got enough grace in the bank at the moment for what he did last year, and also the fact that the optics are Fosun have fucked him over last year and have fucked him over in the summer a little bit. But as soon as you start saying pity me, that'll turn quickly. So I don't care about pity you. Fucking get 3 points on the board and start winning football games.
I don't think there's a million miles away difference between Newcastle and Wolves. Obviously, they spent a lot of money, but like in terms of like matching them, when we played them, and last year was a little bit different, but I feel like we're pretty similar, and we normally give him a good game, and it normally ends in a draw. So for him to come out and say these are definitely going to finish above us, it's just like, hold on a second, we're 4 games in. Like, what makes you say that? Do you know something that we don't?
The other side of that, Matt. The other side of that is with the fixtures that are coming up, you got Villa away, we've got Liverpool at home. What ideas that put? Granted, he might be saying different things to players and what he's saying in the press. I get that, but if I'm Mateus Cunha or I'm Andre or I'm a player that is a top level player, right, relative to where Wolves are, I'm thinking, what the fuck are you talking about? We've got to go and play 2 Champions League teams, right? So what we're doing, writing them off now, it's just completely the wrong attitude for me. And I think you're right. I think it comes from some selfish reasons. I think my view on him is, I think he's a good in-game manager, subs aside. I think when you look at the switches that he can make, what he did with protecting Semedo, I think he did things like that. And you listen to his analysis, he 100% knows what he's doing from a coaching perspective. The subs are poor, and then the kind of outwardly facing bits are poor. I think even when you look back to Nuno, which I know we don't like to do now, but he was always looking ahead. He was always looking up. That was always the plan, whether we got there or not. It was always, we want to dream, we want to look ahead, and we did, and we got there. Whereas now, what he's done is he's really, really brought the bar down in terms of. I think Fosun did par for the course this summer. I think in terms of where we need to improve the squad, we've brought Mosquera back. We've got a goalkeeper who can actually pass a football. We've got a proper number 9. We've got new wingers in. Andre is one of the best in the world in that position. I think we've done a pretty good job. I don't think O'Neill's in a position to be saying, we are Newcastle are a better side than us. Because if you take, Isak and Gordon, aside, they're the outliers across them 2 teams probably. Then they're very similar. They've got fucking Dan Burn and Lewis Hall and Livramento. They're decent Premier League players, but they're no better than what we've got.
No, that's what I mean. I feel like there's quite a bit of crossover in terms of quality, apart from the 2 that you mentioned, and maybe Bruno as well. I think he's wonderful, but I don't think you needed to mention it. I do feel that he's quite an emotional bloke, though. He says things when and he's an emotional job. He's pretty charged, and then post-match press conferences, and he says things. I don't think you really needed to say that. But whether the players take much notice of it, I suppose that's the most important thing. But he's getting quite a lot of stick, and I still think it's unjust. With 4 games in, everyone talks about last season as well, but last season the squad was absolutely decimated, which come from above. We had nothing to play for by the end of March, and it was a little bit alarming that we went on that losing streak. But I don't think you should really consider that with this season. The squad is quite considerably different to last season. There's no players yet to bed in. We've had to change philosophy 2 games in because they couldn't get him another centre half in. I still think giving time. I also think if you're going to beat Villa on Saturday, we all forget about it. It's like, what a job, man. Gary O'Neill's at the wheel. That's what I think will happen. But football fans are fickle, aren't they?
Well, the thing is, though, the unfortunate thing for Gary O'Neill and the unfortunate thing that will come from the press, and is that we all knew it was a difficult start of the season, right, with the fixtures we've got. But that doesn't sell stories, or that doesn't sell. That doesn't get you 15 minutes on Sky Sports News on a Monday morning. It'll be Wolves haven't won in 5 or 6 or 7 or 8, whatever it could be. It doesn't matter who you played. It'll just be, well, that's what's going on, sort of thing, right? So, yeah, it's one of those things. I've lost you.
No, you're back. The team's cool. How unnerving is that, though? When you get a call at work and someone just dials it in, you're like, hold on a second, what are you doing here?
No, the worst one is, it's when, Joe Bloggs is calling you from a group. That's the one I hate, where you're getting called in some kind
summoned.
of conference call. What's he want?
It's absolutely horrible. I think, Joe, that's enough about the Newcastle game.
Yeah.
I think that on the whole, we played well, but we've got to stop being the nearly men, haven't we? We've got to somehow get over the line, because it's all well and good. So, you played well, that's positive to take. But unless you start getting points on the board, it don't matter.
No, I think Andre will be key to that. And I know I keep blowing smoke up his arse, but he's the kind of player that can pivot and can kind of ground the team a little bit. And I think that's what we need. When he went off yesterday, we fell apart. I am confident moving forward that with him in the team, we're going to be a lot more stable. It worries me. The whole point of last season and the results that we had last season, we had Traore and Chouameni playing at Burnley, I remember, and the game against Villa away. I'm much more optimistic going into Saturday than I was for this fixture last season. So that shows that we're moving forward. I think, I don't know if you two agree, but I'm much more confident for Saturday than I was for that fixture last season.
I am, but it doesn't mean I think we do well against Villa on the whole anyway. So that makes me a bit more confident. I don't know what it is, but yeah, I think if we play like we did against Newcastle and just be a bit more disciplined, which I think you have to away from home anyway. I think we got players who can really hurt them. I know there's got the Brighton game on Wednesday, which we probably won't even discuss because it was really arse about it. Fair play if you're going down there. O'Neill has said that he's going to be wholesale changes, so expect 11 changes. But the Villa game on Saturday, I don't know how you feel, Jord. Rivalry aside, or whether you want to call it a rivalry or a derby, whatnot. I feel like it's must win. But I think like every game at the minute is just because of the start we've had and just in the manner that we've collapsed. We need a win just to quieten down the noise a little bit of people criticising Gary O'Neill or particular players, and what better way to do that by winning at a local rival?
Yeah, but I feel Sunday just gone was our big opportunity to get the monkey off our back, really, and we took that away. I think, look, Villa are a good team, aren't they? Emery's good, good manager. I agree with Joe. We always seem to have got a good record against Villa. I always feel like we're again similar to Newcastle. We always have a game with them. Like, it doesn't matter where we are in the league. Same, like, we always seem to have like tight games with them. I think the squad is as good as it has been. I think I've said before on one of these podcasts, I think as a squad, collectively as a squad, this is probably the strongest squad we've ever had in the Premier League. Not necessarily 1 to 11, but squad for sure. And I actually think the one thing I'll say about the weekend is I really fancy us in terms of to win the midfield battle. So I know Onana's got a few goals, and I know he's gone for 50 million quid. Until I feel like I think we can overrun them in midfield. I just look at it and go, I think we can run them. I think we've got that, especially if you're playing the three of them collectively in there. I think you've got to be careful of Watkins now. He's got a couple goals. He's such a streaky confidence player. He'll have his backup now. And I know I said to you, Matt, well, in our group chat on the weekend as well, like, John Duran, every time he seems to touch a fucking football, he seems to score goals as well. I don't know what it is about him, just box office. I actually, for a Villa player, I love him. I just think he's class.
I put the tweet. I genuinely think he's one of the most elite ball strikers in the division. And you might think, well, striking a ball is kind of a prerequisite of his job as a footballer. And it just makes me laugh when people talk about ball striking ability, Joe. But he's got it. Like, there's no backlift. He's just a walloper.
He's one of them players where, from a data perspective, that's speaking, like, making it really boring.
Yeah. Until
this season, he wouldn't have stood out. But then, even if that strike on Saturday, it's popped up nicely for him. In fairness, but it's a great strike. But even that header he scored against Leicester a couple of weeks ago, he's just come on leaps and bounds. And I think Emery, as a coach, does that to people. And I heard an interview with John Duran where he's basically come out and said, I should be starting ahead of Ollie Watkins now. And I think that's that kind of thing now where I'd sounds odd. I'd much prefer Watkins to be starting on Saturday than Duran. My only the only shining light is maybe that they've got to go to Switzerland tomorrow and they've got a Champions League game where we're going to Brighton. It's nearly as far anyway. But the
probably cheaper to get to Switzerland.
Yeah, it's not cheap when you get there.
No.
It's one of them where I am confident for Saturday, and I think the style that we played yesterday lends itself to that kind of game away from home. Where if what the Villa fans are, they're same as us. If there's a team that's kind of piling the pressure on away from home on the counter attack and we look dangerous, then that can turn the game. So for me, I'm looking forward to. I'm not looking forward to the fact I'm going with you, but I'm looking forward to the fact that
we had a discussion this morning of can we be bothered? Was it last night or this morning?
Yeah, it was that'll turn. Give it Wednesday or Thursday. You'll get a taste for it. You'll want to go.
Well, we had the discussion about not going and drinking as well.
That's going out the window now.
After watching that yesterday, I'm going to need straight through. Friday night, Saturday morning.
Yeah,
New Street for 11 o'clock. Now, I do like Villa away. I've got a lot of mates who are Villa fans as well. They've never really bothered me that much to Villa. I think it's only been heightened recently because we've been in the same league, and whereas other local teams haven't. But I generally not that bothered about them, and I quite like seeing them as long as it's not against us. Like seeing them do well, because it is nice to have. Wolves fans think, what the fuck's he going on about? But seeing a non-traditional Big Six team breaking into the top four and getting Champions League, it's almost like it gives you a bit of confidence that one day it is doable. But then
they're a proper club as well.
Proper team, proper club, proper players.
I'd much prefer to see them not in the Champions League, if I'm honest. Yeah. But I think it does the same with Brighton. Previously that. It does show that a bit of ambition. It doesn't take hundreds of millions of quid, all the time to do it. Brighton spent hundreds of million in the summer, and they, couldn't get a goal against Ipswich at the weekend. So it's not all about the money. I think and this comes back to the O'Neill point. If you can get some positivity around the club, which doesn't feel like there's a great deal there at the moment for us, if you get a bit of positivity in, it can go a long way. And that's for me what we need to be doing. Emery's he's a master at it. They've got all this shit going on behind the scenes where there's rivers of piss flowing through Villa Park, and it's 10 grand to get a ticket. But they're winning on the pitch, and the fans are happy. So all the shit that goes on off the pitch, they're absolutely the model club now in terms of what we need to be looking to do. And that pains me to say it, but fair play to them. They've gone and done it properly, and they've gone and bought players in the right areas.
I also think, hot take, it's my favourite ground in the country, Villa Park. I love it. I know only round the corner from it, but I love Villa Park. I think it's class. I know you've got better stadiums, but in terms of character, you're 10 minutes from Birmingham city centre in a taxi. You can spend all day on the piss in there. You can get back afterwards in a taxi if you win. There's good atmosphere. It always is, and you always win. So I mean, I'm sure that'll change on Saturday. But what's your favourite ground? What's your favourite ground, Jord?
I've always said for an away day, I've always liked Craven Cottage, just because it's just a bit different and just feels a bit old school, and just like getting the boat over. You can get the boat, can't you, over the Thames, over across, and I just like it. And probably not now because I haven't been to Craven Cottage probably for about 4 or 5. Yeah, sorry. You can kick me out then. I haven't been to Craven Cottage for about 4 or 5 years. I just disappeared and appeared. Wrong answer. See you later. Yeah. No, I've not been for 4 or 5 years, and it seems to have got modernised a little bit now. And they're another one that are like
charging £120,
aren't they, to sit like halfway line or something stupid. Now I always used to like Craven Cottage back in the day. Another one I used to like as well was going to Bolton. I don't know why, just like the Reebok.
What?
I don't know. I don't know what it was. It's also
it's not even Bolton. Enjoy going to Bolton. It's fucking shit.
No.
It's on a retail park in the middle of nowhere. There's only Frankie but you can for a pint.
Yeah, no, you can go. We've done it where we've drank around the areas and then got into. But I don't know what it is about the Reebok. Maybe a bit of nostalgia. I don't know. I've always.
Are you sure you've been to Bolton? It's not somewhere else.
No, I've been to Bolton. I went to Bolton. I went to Bolton.
You can drink in Burton.
Yeah, you can't. Burton's a good one actually. That's another good away day. Now Bolton with New Year's Eve, I think we played them and we drew 1-1. I remember turning up and Kevin Foley and Carl Emery were playing centre midfield under Mick McCarthy. I was like, this is going to be a long day. And I think Stephen Fletcher scored very early in the second half. From
Barclaysman.
Yeah, Barclaysman. That is a true Barclaysman, yeah.
Joe, what's your favourite away day?
My favourites would by default be in London because I just think it's a better day. Other than Tottenham, which we've had me and you have had some horror shows at Tottenham trying to get away from that. But Fulham, I don't want to steal George Fulham. Fulham would be up there. I'll tell you what's a lot easier. The worst ground in the Premier League can only be between Sellers Park and Goodison Park.
It's Crystal Palace.
No, Goodison is class.
Goodison, for being in Liverpool, that's the one ticket gets. But once you're actually in the ground, it's fucking shit. And Palace is up there. Yeah,
it's the worst in the Premier League. Sellers Park, it's awful.
People talk about the bottom of the Steve Ball being the worst away end in the league, which I'm quite happy with. But anyone who's sat in the back 20 rows at Sellers Park, where you can only see a third of the pitch, then by default, that's got to be up there. It's just a shithole. Horrible place.
Before we go on to the questions, I know you've got to go
Yeah, I've
soon,
got to go.
Jordan.
Yeah.
I went to the pub on Friday, and me and my mate discussed Barclaysman and who we'd have in our Barclaysman team, and we got a starting 11. I'd like to run it through it, see what you think. The criteria for us, they can't have played for a top 6 team or a big 6 team, and had to be the Barclays era. So in goal we had Jussi Jääskeläinen, left back Leighton Baines, central defended duo of Chris Samba and Joseph Yobo, right back Rory Delap, left midfield Gamps Pedersen, right midfield JJ Okocha, Booba Diop and Ben Arthur in the middle. Tim Cahill just behind Kenwyne Jones.
Love that.
What do you reckon?
I think there's 2 glaring misses for me, and there's 2 that I've not seen mentioned on this Barclaysman trend so far, and they're both from Blackburn. I'd put Ryan Nelson in there next to Chris Samba, not New Zealand captain.
Are you going to say the winger, aren't you?
No, I'm not. I'm going to say 2 guy. No one's mentioned 2 guy yet.
No, I think
2 guys. 2 guys are Barclaysman, mate.
Yeah, but mate, Kenwyne Jones, I think, is a wonderful shout because for like a year he was an absolute handful. He always scored against us as well.
Hugo Rodriguez is another one.
Yeah, Amir Zaki. We also looked at Charles and Zogby as well.
Zogby is a good one.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what though, I'd go. You know, maybe drop Breeder Hangerland in there.
Oh wow, what a shout! Did he play for Spurs though?
No,
I think so.
He went to Fulham, didn't he? After Fulham, he went to play to Fulham. Yeah. Who else is that?
That's it.
There's got to be
Breeder Hangerland.
Yakubu.
Yeah, Yakubu's the one.
I think if you play for Blackburn or Portsmouth in that area, you get extra points.
I think Everton, Blackburn, and Portsmouth are like the Barclaysman teams.
Herman or Ardison, maybe.
Yeah, I like Distan, but he played for City, didn't he? So
yeah, he did.
Yeah, so didn't count. But even though City were but he can't be. No, he's got it. You know, because that's why I like Clint Dempsey. But he played for Spurs as well, didn't he?
You're ruling Alano out then.
Yeah, you don't know where I'm from, dog. Right, should we move on to the questions, Jord? If you
I'm going to go, lads. I've got to go. But lovely to speak with you.
See you again. Happy birthday.
Yeah. Thank you.
Happy birthday,
Enjoy
mate.
Villa. See you later. Cheers. Bye,
mate.
See you, mate.
Thank fuck he's gone. Jeez, always a no. Joe, question time. So we've had quite a few questions. I did strategically put the tweet out not long after full time yesterday. So as you can imagine, some of the tweets are charged with quite a lot of anger. There are quite a lot of tweets around Doherty. So why play Doherty? The guy's a disaster. Why does he still play for us in 2024? Has he ever run faster than 5 miles an hour? There's a lot around Doherty, which I think it's easy to scapegoat him. We should have shown him on the outside. O'Neill said that. But the previous 3 games or 2 games, I think he looked all right. So we get that he was at fault. But yeah, I'm probably not going to go for them. We are seeing quite a lot of questions, though, Joe, about O'Neill and if they sack him, who would you bring in? Now, they're not going to sack him. They give him a new deal. We're 4 games into the season. We didn't get a first win until game week 7. When we in the second season, we come up and we finish in the top 7.
Yeah.
But Joe, theoretically, right? If Gary O'Neill was to go, who would you want to replace? Now, I know who I would want, and he's going to be why have you suggested that? But who would you like if you could?
I think I know. I have a good idea who you're going to say. So I think maybe a championship team at the top of the league at the moment. I've got a decent manager. You could always might want to move to a bigger club.
Imagine there's absolutely no way that happened, but
no. And to be honest, there's the few Albion fans that remain now that they're down there are kind of shouting about how much of a better manager Corberan is than O'Neill, which there's absolutely no evidence to suggest that yet. Get out the championship and then we'll see.
Yeah.
For me, I really don't want to really entertain the idea of O'Neill going because I think it's really kind of reactionary. And I think that the idea that you can't have a bad game and make bad decisions in isolation, and then that has to result in him immediately getting the sack. There's absolutely no way he's going to. There's no way that he should. I think for me, we need a manager who's kind of sensible, and O'Neill is that. I think he's a reasonable person most of the time, other than when his interviews after the game. So a lot of people talk about Carrick. Yeah, can go with that. But there has been various times in the past couple of years where Borough have got spanked as well. So there's no perfect or right or wrong answer. But for me, he's doing a perfectly fine job as we sit here now. If that changes, then obviously you look at it, don't you?
So who would it be? Who do you think I'm going to say?
I thought you were going to say Corbrand purely for bait.
No. Them days were over for me.
Go on.
David Moyes.
In a really weird way, I wouldn't be against it in a strange way.
You know what you're going to get, and you know you're probably going to have a couple of seasons where you finish in the top half, and it might not be pretty, but
you know, Big Sam in for April and May. See what happens.
Wow, now we're talking. You know when you want like to talk about, you know, bringing a manager in with a project and stuff. In our position, if a manager does well, he moves on. Like if Gary O'Neill got us into Europe this season, he'd probably stay for another year. If he got us top 10 or Europe again, he would be off. So
there's kind of real solid middle ground in the fact that if we finish 15th or below, it'll probably be up for the chop. If we finish 10th or above, it'll be getting shouts for the Liverpool job when Arne Slot gets the sack or whatever. There's very limited middle ground where Gary O'Neill stays at Wolves for the next 5 years because it's going to be one extreme or the other, isn't it?
Yeah,
if you look
it's unheard of.
Yeah, it doesn't really happen. And with where we are, if you look at the likes of Marco Silva, they're like anomalies really, where you'd have thought that Marco Silva with his relegations or with his promotions would have gone one way or the other, but he hasn't. He stayed at Fulham. And I think my view, controversially probably, is Gary O'Neill isn't the 5 to 10 year manager for Wolves. He's not that long term kind of project manager. I don't think. I think we're probably looking to get into something else once we've solidified a little bit and we've kind of staved off relegation. I don't think Fosun see Gary O'Neill as a kind of long term manager because I don't think they look that far ahead from a operational perspective. And I think also they'd probably be happy to get a bit of compo for him as and when he does leave, if he does kind of head upwards. But for the next 2 years, he'd have to perform pretty badly, I think, to get the sack.
I think he's a bit of a media darling anyway, and I mean that in the most respect. A lot of pundits all say like, and I think that Monday Night Football segment he did has really helped his stock. But and Richard asks this: why does everyone, including pundits, say Gary O'Neill is doing a good job? Yet he's won winning 15 league games. I do think there is an element of that. They see a young British coach who had a decent season last year under the circumstances. He's fairly eloquent, gets his points across, happy to speak in the media, and I think pundits look at that and give him a lot more credit than perhaps he deserves. Not by much, because I do think he's a good coach. But do you think there's an element of that, Joe?
I think there's definitely an element of that, and I do think he got praised quite heavily when he came in last season for how he performed at United. I don't think at any point last season we were excellent. I don't think I never went into a home game against anybody thinking we are going to win this game ever.
No,
which to me, that's the barometer. Even under Lopetegui, you felt like you were going to win games in that run because we were on top, and stylistically we were doing the right thing to win games. Whereas I do sometimes wonder if Gary O'Neill's looking for the substance and the PR element of his style of play rather than what's actually going to go and win games. Like he said yesterday, I feel like we're going to go and beat teams and get points. That's great, but you need to go and do it. You can't keep talking about it now. And I think the fact that he was even mooted for the England job, it's kind of been made to look a bit silly in the fact that a fairly kind of equal level manager in Cars is probably going to get the job kind of moving forward. But for me, he shouldn't have been in with a shout at the England job, O'Neill. He's not done anything to suggest that he should be at that level.
No,
yet.
I don't think he has either. The thing that concerns me is the fact that we spent 5 or 6 weeks in pre-season working on an identity or philosophy of how he wants to play. And he always says in interviews another kind of gripe. I make it sound like he really pisses me off. He doesn't. I actually really like him.
Yeah.
When he talks about his philosophy and he says in interviews, I'll teach you about it one day. And it's like, hold on a second, mate. Hold on a second. Like, Guardiola here. But the fact that we've changed, we've spent the 5 or 6 weeks learning, playing a system, and now we've changed. And I think that is mostly driven by not getting the personnel in that he wants. But it's a bit of a waste of time, wasn't it?
I don't know. I think we've accidentally fell on the right starting 11 now. I think yesterday was up there with probably as good as we're going to get. Maybe you can switch out Bellegarde for Rodrigo Gomez or Carlos Forbes at some point, but Bellegarde's done enough to stay in the team for now. I think the style of play that we were playing in pre-season, I thought it looked brilliant. It looked great, and it did look more stable, I think. But obviously, it's pre-season, so it's a lot easier to be stable when there's nothing really riding on the game. But I always find these managers who have this like dedicated system and they want to play this way, a bit odd, because if you need to get to a 5 at the back, you need to play the game, don't you? And if you need to go to 5 at the back, which we did to a degree against Forest with the style at times, and we have done in the past, if that's what you need to do to win the game, that's what you need to do to win the game. Unless you're Pep Guardiola and you've got players that are good enough to play any system you want realistically, then you need to be flexible in it. And I do see a bit of stubbornness in him that I'm really not a fan of. And over the years, I've moaned to you about this in the past, managers who just get stuck in their ways and aren't prepared to change the style mid-game or before games, then you've got to just go with it. And the fans want to see us pick points up. If we need to be a bit more stable, which we should be now, then just do it. We talk about Moyes. I think universally, if Moyes came out, I don't think there'd be any negative feeling towards that at all. If that did happen one day, there'd be bits, obviously, but widely, I think fans would be relatively happy with that kind of appointment. That he's not going to play, the way we played yesterday. He's going to want to, tighten things up a little bit. And I don't think Gary O'Neill, in the nicest possible way, is at the level that he thinks he is just yet. He needs to kind of get a kind of portfolio of work over 3, 4, 5 years together before he starts kind of maybe talking the way he's talking and kind of acting the way he's acting, and kind of outwardly facing into the media, talking about our strategy and doing interviews with the Express and Star and things like that. That interview was a funny one, I thought, because he was, it's like a PR piece. It's quite clearly a piece for him, not a piece for the club. And
I know Max was in the room as well when they were doing it, so it was in a controlled environment, and I'm sure. Look, I really like Liam and Nathan. I think the coverage that they bring is better than any other journalist, but they know which side the bread's buttered, it's fair enough. People say you've got to ask the tough questions, but they ask questions in a respectful manner. It's difficult. It's your job. And if Liam or Judah ask something out of turn and the club don't like it and they do it again, the club will say, you know what? You're not allowed in the press conference, or you lose that access, and they have to go back to their gaffer and say we've lost access, and it'll be see you later. You've lost your job. So I get it, but the club are the power play here. But I think they know what they're doing by giving more access to journalists, and Hobbs doing more interviews and stuff. I think
it just makes me nervous seeing that kind of stuff, because I think it's good that he's getting out there and he's showing his style when he's on Sky Sports. It looks good because he's kind of expressed himself at how good he is as a coach, and he's obviously tactically he's up there. Yeah. You've seen that in kind of mid-game changes positionally, but I just want to. My main issue now is I just want to get our heads down, just start getting points. All the kind of waffle in the press, it counts for nothing. If you get some wins on, go and do Monday Night Football every fucking week if you want.
Yeah, it's easy to do it after a win. I think it was after the Man City game, wasn't it?
Yeah,
which was probably a tactical, a bit of a strategical decision. I do think that we've got a good chance of getting some at Villa. I also think we've got a decent chance against Liverpool, because although they won the first 3, didn't they? The way they played against Forest, Liverpool fans were absolutely doing nothing, saying how terrible it is, and there already feels, which feels ridiculous because they won the first 3, like a bit of pressure on him. And I think because he's not Jurgen Klopp, and why you take that job following Klopp, it's like whoever followed Nuno, wasn't it? In a dumber down version, you're pissing in the wind.
Yeah,
but I do think there's an opportunity there. I really do, and that could be the Man City moment last year where it kickstarts the season.
And that kind of game at the Molineux where late kickoff, everyone's going to add a few. There'll be a decent atmosphere in the Molineux, I think, at 5:30 on a Saturday. That's the kind of game, and I think the fans are key to this because the atmosphere sounded flat.
It's been
speaking to somebody who had the opportunity to go yesterday and sit in the season ticket seat, and I opted not to. Then I think there's a lot on the fans to deliver as well. Speaking as one, but a game like that, that's where I would fancy us. I just worry: are we as stable at the back as we want to be able to keep them out? Because I thought Forest. I watched the game on on a perfectly legal stream on Saturday, and Forest did an absolute job on them. They were brilliant.
Yeah.
They were disciplined. They were everything that we haven't been really. They were disciplined. They had kind of good options on the break with Gibbs White. Did play really, really well.
I like the Langer idea. I think, yeah.
Well, I saw a piece this morning. I think it's a really good point worth making. If you get rid of Brennan Johnson for 50 million, 55 million, and you get the likes of Langer and Callum Hudson-Odoi for, I think, 20 combined across the two. Fucking great business, that is.
Yeah. And really Hudson-Odoi was down and out, weren't he? And I've obviously seen a player in there. And yeah, for what it's worth, though, just making that point about journalists asking questions. I think that like, especially in the Express and Stars case, that they do ask the questions, but it's easy. I think it's easy for fans to sit on Twitter and say, why aren't you asking that? And if Gary O'Neill was sat in front of you right now, you wouldn't be asking him that question because it's stuff that's just not appropriate for the question to be asked. But they do ask. They do ask some questions.
I've got no overt issue with the way the Express and Star and the lads go about their business because they're there. They turn out some really good media.
They're the best. They're the best recovering Wolves that there is, in my opinion.
And like you say, it's a fine line, isn't it? Because you can't bowl into a press conference and just start asking those questions. You want to build a relationship with them, which people complain that they don't get enough out of them, but then complain when you can't really win. It's just one of those things where,
and that's why they get
always goes away with wins.
You get that access because you know that there's the trusted and the relationship's been built, and Gary O'Neill's happy enough to do it because he's worked with him the last couple of years.
I tell you what, you need. What they need to do is they need to get themselves down the training ground for the next Content Creators Cup and just stand next to Matt Hobbs for an hour like Dave did.
Dave was man marking, weren't he? Hobbs weren't even playing.
At Tom, we were playing the back three, going really defensive. At times, he was just stood off the pitch next to Matt Hobbs. It was ridiculous. Davy's not even playing, mate. Come on, go on.
Leave him alone, fuck's sake.
Yes, I'm touching him.
Put him down. Congrats on the win, though. There is one more question, Joe, which is away from O'Neill and Doherty. It's from a Mars Music Show, as his customary question every week. What is the one single biggest tactical change you feel could improve our results this season? I think personally playing with a bit more dynamism in the wide area, starting with Forbes and Gomez, or Forbes and Bellegarde, just out and out raw pace. Personally,
it's a great question. To be fair, if we're classing this as tactical, what I would do is learn to take a set piece. That would probably help. I think offensively and defensively, our set pieces are. I think defensively, yesterday we got lucky. Every single corner that Newcastle had hit the first man, but offensively, we've got to be doing better with them. I think on the pitch, I would agree. I think the main tactical decision that I would have made 6 weeks ago was to get a number 6 in, which is what we've done. So we've picked a very, very good one. But I think it's a strange one. That front three yesterday, I'm happy with it, but I just wonder what the messaging is on what they're actually being sent out to do, because Cunha and Bellegarde are effectively playing narrow behind Strand Larson, but they're both doing completely different jobs. I'm not sure whether that's accidental or not. It looked quite disjointed to me. Yeah. It worked, but it looked disjointed to me. So I think if you're playing kind of traditionally, I don't think Forbes is ready to start games from a tactical perspective yet. Rodrigo Gomez should be. He's had all the pre-season, and it makes me wonder. It's a bit of a strange one. I think that Rodrigo Gomez has had pretty much all pre-season. He didn't get on the pitch yesterday.
Not had a sniff at all, has he? You mustn't fancy him.
I don't know, because in pre-season he was brilliant. He was one of our best players, and
unless
he was linking.
Season him in.
Yeah, I hope so. And maybe Carlos Forbes is a bit more of a maverick. Maybe he was just kind of chucking him on. Let's hope for the best. I wasn't a fan of him on the right. I know he plays on both sides, but I think he would have been more dangerous on the left. Yeah. Especially running at Trippier when Trippier come on, I think would have been preferable. But we just need a bit more solidity tactically. However we get it, we just need to find that kind of. I don't think the tactics are really the problem. I think the mentality is a bigger issue. I think being able to control a lead or kind of react to conceding. We're either on the moon or we're on the floor, and it's just a strange one. The other point I wanted to make before we forget,
Go on.
Is obviously dropping Sarah at the team for Johnston. It's like we've took a bloke out who looks like he's smoking crack half the time and he's on a different planet, right? And he's just kind of like he's mental, Jose Sarra, in the best possible way. And I'm a big fan of him.
He's too unpredictable for a keeper.
Yeah. But then they've brought a bloke on. Sam Johnston looks like he's just been smoking a spliff because he's like so slow. His distribution's brilliant. Once he's actually delivered the ball from his foot,
there was a couple of times
trying to connect with the ball yesterday. He needs to. I don't know what that's something that's probably quite easily resolvable. Where O'Neill probably just needs to get into him before the game and get into his head. But he just seemed quite slow yesterday. So I am very much of the opinion that's a positive change. And I think Sam Johnston does add a bit more stability. Those goals we conceded against Chelsea don't happen largely with Sam Johnston, I don't think. I think it'll be interesting to see now the way Sarr reacts to probably get starting against Brighton in the week with largely kind of players who've been out of the team.
That's if he wants to play. Might be Bentley who comes in. Dan Bentley must think, well, what do I do now? But he's going to be number 2, I
Tom
think.
King.
Yeah. What a job he's got.
I know. What a bloke. What a bloke.
Fair play to him. We'll leave it there, Joe. I know we haven't discussed Brighton, but I think we all know that we're not particularly fussed about that. Fair play to you if you go in. It's not one that I'd want to make the journey for, especially now knowing there's wholesale changes. But it's nice.
If anybody wants supporter points, you're more than welcome to them. Just saying.
I saw that the coach is like 45 quid as well. Personally, I think for a game like that, it should be free coach travel.
I bet Dave's going, isn't he?
Probably, mate.
Yeah.
Probably.
No, I can't do with that.
He's going in with Hobbs, I think. He's driving down. He's sat on his lap.
Yeah.
I jest. Joe, been a pleasure, mate. Thanks for jumping on. Appreciate it. Where can people find you, should they wish to follow?
They can find me at Concept Scouting. I am there fielding queries on where Hwang should play and how far away from the team he should be, but that's where you'll find me.
You're the go-to now, aren't you, really, for any kind of analysis for Wolves? I see a lot of people tweet you saying, what do you think of this? What do you think of this?
To be fair, the DMs on that account are full of kind of international people asking for my opinion on the third choice left back from a Swedish 4th division team. So it's gone very niche now. It's the data can provide a picture and I can see him on video, but it's growing arms and legs now, mate.
Yeah, pizza wheels all over the gaff, mate. Love it.
I need to copyright them. Just need to get the copyright.
You do, mate. You do. We'll get a partnership with Domino's or something.
Yeah,
so
I think so.
One day. When no one needs that. Talking Wolves across all social media platforms. If you have enjoyed the video and you're listening on, or the podcast, listen on Apple or Spotify, please give us a 5-star review. If you're watching on YouTube, drop us a like. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. And until next time, hopefully we come back into the next round of the Carabao Cup, win over our local rivals, and hopefully things are looking a bit more rosy. But until then, have a wonderful week. Take care, and up the Wolves.